singing to a single star.
Welcome to the magical realm of seeking the light of 1,000 suns. Join us on this journey as we delve into the mystical world of eclectic witchcraft. Brought to you by Maya Skyrika, Gia Storm, and spiritual advisor Lily McNamara from lilyofthelight.com. Together we share our eclectic tips and tricks with listeners at any stage in their chosen magical path. Get ready for engaging discussions, diverse knowledge, and a community that embraces the sparks of magic in your life. Please follow and share our content so we can reach as many like minds as possible. Don't forget to check out our extras available on our Facebook page and website, www.seekingthelightofA1,000suns.com. Thank you for listening. Unfortunately, we're missing one of our crew members today. Lily McNamara is getting ready for the Samhain Symposium in the cities, so she will not be joining us.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Seeking the Light of 1,000 Suns podcast. I am Gia Storm, and with me is Maya Skyrika, and we are going to be discussing the Teles in this episode. Please be sure, if you get a chance, like and follow us on Facebook. You can go to our website. We'll have all the information at the end of this podcast episode. We are missing the amazing Lily on this episode. She's really busy. She's getting ready for the Science Symposium, and we really miss you, Lily. We miss you. Maya, how are you doing?
Doing good, you?
Yes, we're going to be talking. Let's the very first tele that we're going to dive into is telepathy and dream telepathy. So brace yourselves. I'm a goofball tonight. I'm sorry. Just weird energy. It's Mercury retrograde. So telepathy is the transference. Oh, sorry. There goes my words. I'm going to blame it on retrograde too. Let me try that again. Telepathy is the transference of thought or impressions from one person to another across a distance without using the usual sensory channels of communication. Maya, would you like to give us some examples?
I'm laughing at the words with Mercury retrograde.
I'm so angry at Mercury right now. Yeah.
So, animals and insects, they're capable of telepathy, thought transfers to alert each other of whereabouts of danger. I know there's also been a lot of studies that have been done as well. I mean, I can't remember the name of the study, but they had I think they were chimpanzees, where they were, brought up in different countries, different environments, I should say.
Yes.
And they still exhibited the same behaviors and the same teachings and understood and demonstrated the same actions, even though they were from different environments. And a lot of them think that that's not only genetic, but also like a transference of communication.
That's really interesting. Thinking about a lot of that, actually, when I was, my minor was in anthropology, and so I had to take quite a few primatology courses, and I chose to because primatology is just fascinating. There was a lot of information that we had learned on a lot of different studies, very similar to what you're describing. And I could really see, now remembering back, a lot of that transference and cross-species transference as well. Much in the same way that, if there's a fire in the forest, right? The birds will communicate. The other animals, they'll communicate to each other to alert each other even before the smell of smoke. And they flee from that danger. And in a lot of ways, there's a lot we can learn from the other animals of this planet, because we are animals too. And one of those is the more common concept of when you see a lot of birds all flying off quickly in one direction. Tons of different birds, different subspecies of them, to go in the direction they're flying and to get away from where they're flying away from, because it is a call of danger. But then even delving deeper into this, right? Being able for an animal of one species to communicate to another animal of another species, such as an example I have, a human being and a cat, where a cat can tell a human a message through the use of telepathy. And Maya and I both had this interesting experience one night. And I deeply want to say too, Sabian, who was Maya's cat, is dearly missed. He was amazing. Pure love. So this one night, there was a small group of us, and we were in Maya's living room. And we were working on visualizing, seeing each other's auras. And after that had happened, we had turned on the lights. And I saw Sabian come out from his room into the hallway. And he paused and he stared at me. And all of a sudden, his mouth, in some way that you would think of like a Tom and Jerry cartoon, transformed into almost similar to a human talking mouth. And he looked at me and he said, "Serious." And then he said it again, "Serious." It blew my mind.
That's the part I remember.
Right,
I remember you going,
yes.
"You can't just talk to me."
Just
You had this pure shocked look on your face. I'm like, well, what did he say?
serious. He said serious.
But he spelt it. Not like, "Are you serious?" He spelt it.
Yeah.
Like
SIRIUS.
Yep.
And it was really uber bizarre and very important. Very important. We have yet to really discover the why.
Or what he was trying to communicate, yeah.
But both of us, to this day, we know how important that message was. And we've gone down so many rabbit holes with it. Sirius FM radio. It's just one of those things. The space Sirius. It just, maybe I originally came from the Sirius system. And who knows? We're still trying to figure that out. But it was a very interesting experience of animal telepathy.
Well, that's a really big thing that I'm seeing a lot of more and more and more is people offering workshops and offering different types of like appointments and such like that for animal communication. It's really become very, very popular.
It has. And, here's the thing, because I've seen you do it quite a few times where you communicate to animals. And when you pay attention, which I've done before while you're doing this, or when you've sent me videos of it, holy crap, they actually understand. And I know I've had the reverse quite a few times. I mean, even to the point where the oddest thing, could be out in public and someone's walking their dog, and all of a sudden I hear someone say something, and I'm like, well, I know that didn't come from the human, and it's just the damnedest thing. I actually had it recently happen with a spider in my garage. I was in my garage, and all of a sudden this spider crawled up between my legs, not on me, but across the floor between my legs. And in that moment, I sat down, very cautiously, and I looked at the spider and I said, I promise I will not harm you, not intentionally. But can you please make yourself scarce when I'm in the garage so I don't freak out? And then all of a sudden the spider walked away, and I haven't seen the spider since. But there's a lot of webs in my garage, so I know it's still in there.
I would have to say that that's mostly my experience, is I'm mostly communicating to animals and they're receiving and understanding, but I don't have the other direction of communication. I have not yet had a true receipt of communication, if that makes sense.
No, it does. It does. And it's a weird thing, because when it happens, I mean, oftentimes I got to be honest, when it happens, I'm questioning my sanity. But,
Yes.
Yeah, but, well, there you go.
Well, you had a really good example on one of our last episodes with the Claires about how you received a telepathic message on someone's thoughts that were threatening, harmful, scary. Was there something that prompted you to? That's my biggest question, is for those out there that get telepathic messages, is it something like you plug into? Is it something that prompts you to listen? Is it something that, like when you were out with your sister and this guy had terrible intentions, what was it? Did you hear it without even looking? Did you look and then listen? Like, how does that?
So most oftentimes I hear other people's thoughts without looking, without trying.
So yours is kind of like in True, like in True Blood, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'd hear other people's thoughts, and I'm not going to give the example of this, but it has become more developed. I would say that unfortunately, a lot of the trauma that I've been through in my life has also quickened the developmental rate of it. But it has actually, that has always been there for me since as long as I can remember. And I have gotten pretty good at tuning it out. When I tune it out, I tune out quite a bit, though. And so I have to actively, when I'm listening to someone, I have to actively listen to them in a more complex way to try not to hear their thoughts.
So just to add a little bit more here for our listeners, not everybody has telepathy in the form of sound.
Yes.
Some people will get them in imagery.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Or like you said, drawing out of words.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't say, like, I have a lot of experiences where I pick up unsaid things. I call it reading between the lines, where I'm either,
Yes.
on a phone or on FaceTime or Zoom or whatever, or in the presence of someone, and I'll pick up the things that aren't said. But I wouldn't call that telepathy. I would call that more of picking up an energy transference, or reading body language, or all of the above, where I'm hearing the words that are not said, even in text messages, actually.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that's one and the same.
Actually, I want you to think about that, because it is an energy transference.
But not of a thought.
I think it is. And I think it is telepathy. Because what you've described is something that I can also do. There are different subsets of telepathy, right? Like you had mentioned, visual, seeing images, the hearing sounds. There's the different senses, that transfer energy, because energy in physics is everywhere. Energy can never die. It just transfers into something else. So think about that the next time you're doing that, Maya, and think about how simple really would it be for someone to interpret a person's thoughts that have been left unspoken, right? Or their intentions or energies in their text messages. And I will tell you, there's not a very big percentage of people who can do that. You've done that with me. We do that all the time. And when you're doing that, one, I know that we know each other very well. But two, I feel this psychic connection happening when you do that with me. And so I really want you to think about that, because I think that is a form of telepathy.
Well, that's frightening, because I've had a lot of people tell me that they don't like to get super close to me because I scare them.
Well, people say the same things to me. I mean, we're just, you know what? Whatever.
Like to say, witches smell different, right?
We do. We smell different, whatever. We have different energies. And you know what it is? It's because when you think about it, right, it is an intimidating energy.
Right.
Because subconsciously, we all have skeletons in our closet.
Yep.
And
well, we're on the Wisdom app now. I'm going to put questions out there for our listeners. Like, have you ever thought of someone and then received a call or a text from them in that moment or moments later? That could be a form of telepathy. Asking people to share their experiences or to ask any questions in regards to telepathy.
Well, and bringing up things that we haven't thought of.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of experiments and a lot of things out there that people can do to hone this in. I know one of them is, if you've never heard of it, called Zener cards. Basically, they're cards with symbols and stuff on them. And you try to guess what they are before you look at them. It's almost like the reverse memory game, right?
I call them the Ghostbuster cards. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bill Murray, Ghostbusters.
Mm-hmm.
Those are real cards, though.
Mm-hmm.
It's just Ghostbusters it was, comedy, but they are real cards. I mean, they work really well.
So that would be a way to develop your telepathy skills, or to experiment with them. Another one would be like meditating, or having a still mind and practicing with a friend or someone you were close to by imagining a picture in your mind, and sending it to them energetically along with a feeling, and see if they can tell you what they're picturing or what's on their mind. Keeping it simple to start with, something of one color or a number, or something that's not too complex, because the complexity can come later. Just pick a partner and, I don't know, like picture a home, or picture a red 7, or picture an object or something, and see if they can guess what it is.
I like the example too that you have of try guessing the name of someone calling before looking.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get that where when a text message goes off, you can actually feel the energy of the person calling and know who it is?
I don't know that I get a feeling with it, but yes, I can be in another room, my phone can be ringing, and be like, oh, I know who that is. That's my mom.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It doesn't happen all the time for me. The creepier part is that happens to me more is knowing that I need to call someone. That's the creepier one for me. I'll be sitting and I'll be like, oh, I need to check in on so-and-so. I'm getting a feeling that maybe they need to talk to somebody.
I've had some interesting experiences with the phones, but many of us have been there, right? We've all had most of us have had our hearts broken before. But when you send someone that you're dating or that you like a message, and you actually, for a moment, feel their energy towards what you said.
Yes.
And then before they send it, you already feel the energy of what they're sending.
Mm-hmm. It's not always a good feeling either.
Most of mine have been terrible experiences. So I'm just like, anybody else who's, oh my gosh, I hate that stomach dropping feeling that you get when all this, or you get that sudden jab to your heart and you're like, and you know, and then all of a sudden you go to pick up the phone. You're like, I don't want to read it. I already know what came. And you open it up and you're like, yep. Mm-hmm. Okay. Moving along.
But think about all the times where you've heard someone smile or someone laugh.
Yes.
Or their happy dance, or when a good one's coming back. You got to think of those times too.
I like making people laugh. And it's a good feeling when you make other people smile and laugh.
Yeah, it sure is.
So, we also, in this, let me go back here. I'm so sorry. I got off track with this. There's also because this is another very important example when you think about telepathy. Also dream telepathy, which we have not delved into yet, but within witchcraft or spiritual practices, your spirit guides and ancestors, and the synchronicities of communication through telepathy with them.
Yes.
Huge.
Or even
huge.
Even deities sometimes, if you work with deities.
Yes.
Or the fae, or gnomes, or...
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yes. And believe it or not, I really do think that there are some Lycan style folks out there. As I think I've heard communications on occasions. I know more recently I have been working a lot with, and a lot of this has to do with one of my side hustles, I write paranormal romance fiction. So there are witches, warlocks, fae. There are angels, demons, werewolves, vampires, so on and so forth. And I've had a lot of angelic and deity guidance throughout this entire writing process of this first book, even to the point where sometimes I just I get imagery of what I should write about. I dream the next chapter that I need to write.
Some people would call that muses.
Yes, very potentially muses. It is fascinating though, and if anybody else out there has these kinds of experiences, love to hear about them. I mean, so I've gotten more in contact lately with, and I'm so sorry if I get her name wrong, but Hecate and also Selene. And I've really been working with the two of them. And I've had this very strong connection with them. And I actually sometimes can hear them speaking to me, which is fascinating too in and of itself. But
I'm not sure if I would consider that
telepathy?
a tele or a clair. I almost think that while you're writing in a meditative state, you're connecting with these deities and with these muses, I believe.
I like this. This is a good example because this is where there is a very fine line between clairs, teles, and connecting them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you're getting guidance and stuff like that, I mean, it could, I suppose, land into a multitude of clairs, depending on how you're getting it. But I also do believe that people can tap into these things in an alpha or mindless or meditative state. And a lot of times television, reading, music, and things like that will do that. My most profound moments are when I'm in the shower. It must be the repetitive beating of the water or the repetitive sound, but man, if I'm going to connect, receive, or it happens in the shower or when I'm driving. I can come out of the shower completely enlightened with this whole new epiphany. Right? Yeah.
To start keeping a journal in the bathroom. That's what I thought about doing as well. Because I'm like, because right? All of a sudden you have this, like you said, this entire revelation. And then I know for me, then I'm like, oh yeah. And then all of a sudden I get distracted by the mundane and I'm like, what the hell was that again? The revelation?
Yeah.
Damn it.
Yes.
The arms in the air to the sky, like I forgot it all, and it was amazing.
I don't know how many times I've come out of the bathroom and gone to my husband and said, I don't know where this came from, but when I was in the shower, a lot of times I don't know where it comes from. It's like a download. Like I stepped into the Matrix and got that jack in the back of my head. It's like,
Upload.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, download, right? Yeah, download. Yeah.
But I really do think that has a lot to do with the state that your brain is in.
I can see that. So now dream telepathy. This is a heavy one. Do you want to bite off a chunk of this one, Maya?
To be quite honest, this has never I can say that I've had dream connections. I don't know if I would call it telepathy or not, but I have definitely had some profound dream connections that were real connections. I'm just not sure what I would label it as.
I think that is the very tricky part with all of this is which box, or does it fit in a box?
Well, I would say the one that you most recently had that you told me about, I would personally say that falls into dream telepathy.
So that example, and I'm not going to give out the exact numbers because it was a specific message to me, and I don't know if I should be repeating it to everyone or not. I know I keep reiterating that, but I'm just really pissed off right now. But the dream that I had Monday night going into Tuesday, and in this dream, I'm in some weird, almost like a gas station / miniature grocery mart, right? And there's a clerk. And this clerk and I are frantically searching through scratch-off tickets because there's 2 of them that have an alarm going off on them, which means, I guess in the dream, it meant that those were big winning scratch-off tickets. And we're searching and searching and searching, and all of a sudden, finally, I find the first one. And the clerk asked me to read the number of the ticket that's on the corner of the ticket off to the clerk. And I yell out that number. The clerk then loudly repeats that number. I yell it off again, and the clerk uses the clerk's hand to symbol out the number. In other words, my dream was telling me, you better remember this number when you wake up, Gia. So then I start searching for the second scratch-off ticket. And this alarm just is going off and off and off, and it won't stop going off this whole time. And I find it, and we do the exact same ritual with the exception of the clerk not doing the hand symbols this time of the numbers, of the clerk and I going back and forth repeating the number again. 2 different numbers. Okay. Now, both of these numbers do have meanings behind them. They have angelic meanings, they have biblical meanings, they have spiritual meanings, so on and so forth.
And
but it was fascinating.
That was why I thought yours was more on a telepathy basis, because you were given numbers that had significant meanings.
Yes. And in a way where it was like, do not forget this.
Yeah, it had a lasting impression. It was instilled into your mind.
And maybe I need to go find the scratch-off tickets if they've got those numbers.
So the next topic is telekinesis, psychokinesis. Those words I see used interchangeably a lot.
Yes.
And that would be moving objects with your mind. This one's a really difficult one because science has not been able to prove it, and of course, science can't prove everything, and I get that. The thing about telekinesis and how they're defining it in the 1800s was a literal moving of objects with your mind. Like, picture Jean Grey from the X-Men comics, or the comic movie, how she controlled movements of objects with her mind. That would be the original definition. Well, now it is more so seeming to be defined as affecting the outcome of random events using your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like affecting coin flips, dice rolls, influencing outcomes with movement, using your mind to control or change, like, the movement of objects. So I've seen a lot of things where people have, like, done the spoon bending and stuff like that.
I would love to do that.
I've tried doing that. I've not been able to do that. If any of you out there have been able to do that, we would love to hear how you did it, what, the story around it.
Please guide us. We'll be your Padawans. Speaking of, I love that example of Jean Grey, but I think of Star Wars: The Force.
Yes, that too. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So in the more meaning, the more so definition of it. I personally have, I can feel confident in saying I have the ability to manipulate dice. And the reason why I say I say I feel confident about that because it's not just a one-time deal. I've actually been able to accomplish it many, many times, like with playing Monopoly, left, right, center, or dice. Gosh, my family gets me into these dice gambling games.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, I've seen you do it on a slot machine, and I'm jelly.
Okay, but that's not
I've
as
seen
consistent.
you do it on a slot machine many times.
It's not as consistent.
No, that
as
was
it is.
consistent enough. Where I was like, "Can you please do that on my slot machine?"
So, and it was, for me, it's not precognition. It's not me determining beforehand how it's going to roll. Gosh,
No,
I need to try craps sometime. Isn't
can
that
you
another
can you just
dice
fly
game?
back here and we can go to the casino together?
Play craps? Do they do that there? I don't know.
Yeah, they do. They do craps.
So,
they do roulette. They do blackjack. All of that.
but for me, it's not a precognition. It's more like I call it out. I say, like when we're playing Monopoly,
You will that
or
shit.
a dice game, I will that shit. I'm like, boxcars, snake eyes. Like, I don't.
I will
can't.
never bet against you. I will always bet with you.
I mean, you could say, some people might say that I'm a bad person because I'm using my ability to cheat, but I'm not going to lie. It sure does make it fun.
Whatever. Oh, yeah, it does.
Right? I mean, if you could, would you? Ask yourself that.
Right?
Hey, if there's money
people
involved.
who say that. Right. Like, we have to be careful with blackjack because there's only so many cards of each. So you can't call upon a king, queen, ace.
No, I have not had
so many
luck
times
with cards.
Really?
Mm-mm.
Oh, you got to hone in those skills.
That makes me start to wonder, like, why some things and not others. I'll have to think on that more, I guess. It seems to be more so when money's involved. That's a motivator, I guess.
Money.
Do you have any examples or any stories or anything that you personally can share or have observed when it comes to telekinesis or psychokinesis?
So
did I say psycho? Yes,
psycho.
I did.
You did.
Okay.
It's all right. I spent a lot of years studying science and math in college. A ridiculous amount. 20 years. 20 years. For the major I had, it required a lot of physics and chemistry and a whole lot of biology, baby. If you get a chance, go down the rabbit hole of physics, okay? So what you want to look for, you want to look for philosophy of physics, all right? Physics theory. Because there's so many interesting research projects that have been done and are still being done and are also up in the queue to be worked on in regards to a lot of what we're discussing on this podcast. Telekinesis is one that physicists, not all but many, love. They love it. Moving energy. You're moving energy. You're using energy to move energy. When you think about it that way, right? Using energy to move energy. And there has been some very mind-blowing rabbit holes that have popped up that surround people's abilities with telekinesis and psychokinesis. And here's the thing. It's pretty evident that it happens. How it happens is, yes, still a mystery. But even in physics, they have lots of documentation of it happening. There's all this energy out there that we cannot see, taste, touch, hear, or smell, right? That's where the majority of the energy is. And when I think about telekinesis, I think about the examples that Maya gave off. You're either tapping into that energy to alter it, or you're taking energy or using energy to alter it or move it. I would love to give personal examples of this, but yet I have not personally discovered any yet. And I'm going to say yet because I'm on a mission. I want to play with this. I want to try it. I want to see it actually work in action.
Well, I think you have, because you were telling me a story. Oh, God, I think it might have been last week when we were trying to put some of the details together.
Maya, I'm getting older.
You were telling me about the experimenting with light as a feather, stiff as a board.
Oh my gosh, you're right. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I did experience it before. So, as a preteen, many, many, many moons ago, we would have slumber parties. And during those slumber parties, there would be sometimes anywhere between 5 girls to 20 that I went to. And during quite a few of them, we would play light as a feather, stiff as a board. Now, most of the time, nothing happened. Nothing that we could see with our eyes. But there were several times when it was a smaller group of us, and it was like the right combination of us, that it did actually happen. And one example that I can remember is the person who volunteered to lie down and be lifted really truly did believe that this could happen, that we could do it. And the rest of us who surrounded this person and put our 2 fingers slightly under the person to lift the person. Amazingly enough, it was like we were all on par with each other. We are, even the light as a feather, stiff as a board, the chant of it was so well synced, and we were able to get her a couple inches off the ground before we all freaked out and she dropped, and we had a giggle fest. As preteen folks do. Yes.
For next topic, we kind of lumped together. Teleporting, time jumping, and time freezing, we kind of lumped together.
I love these.
Teleporting is like traveling through space or distance instantly without crossing the intervening space. And the reason why I lumped them together is because being that time is linear, and as long as, you subscribe to that, any and all of these are possible. Teleportation's been proven in the world of quantum mechanics with protons and electrons. So who's to say it isn't possible in the 3D or 4D dimensions with people?
So I have a lot on these 3 subjects. I find these 3 subjects to be ultra fascinating. With teleporting, like you were saying, I'm watching The Curse of Skinwalker Ranch. I absolutely love that show. And there are things that are just so unexplainable. They really are unexplainable. And one that happens quite often that they catch on camera really does seem like it's teleportation, potentially through the use of a portal. I think the aspect of how much our own government is involved in this research and the interest of it makes it even more intriguing for me, because in my mind, in my little bit of world, these things exist. And it's fascinating to me that the government is finally starting to come out a little bit more about what they know or don't know in terms of teleportation, even time jumping. I don't know so much about time freezing, but
Oh yeah,
they know.
You've got an example of that too.
I do.
Would you liken though this topic to astral projection or astral travel? Because that's kind of where I'm liking it to.
I think so. But I don't feel like any of them are specific to our physical or just our mental or just our spiritual selves. I think that they can happen in any which way. Is traveling of your spiritual self and leaving your physical self in one place, right?
Yeah, the astral travel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then astral projection would be sending your energy across distance or space without crossing, like physically. Yeah.
So I would see that teleporting is that astral projection and astral travel are actually forms of teleportation, is how I would see it.
Were you in that meditation that we did when I had the house in the cities, where we did the past life meditation? There was a group of us. I want to say 4 or more. Where we in the meditation, I was flipping the calendar backwards. Were you there? So I'm about visiting who and what you were in the past, and I gave everybody the visualization of flipping a calendar and kind of spinning it like you do with, you know how when you're doing an online form and you're playing the Wheel of Fortune, yes, trying to put your date of birth in. Mm-hmm. Okay, so in the meditation, I'm like, spin the wheel and pick a time to go to for past life experience. And the feedback that I got afterward was, "You made me so sick," because it was a failure by design. They all got a really good experience, but they hated the transport or the travel because when you're spinning the Wheel of Fortune like that, apparently it was a little much as far as what it did to the physical body. I got feedback from every person there. I love that. I would love to experience that again, but I will never do spinning the date wheel. It was a poor experience, but that would kind of fall in
sickness.
Yeah, that would kind of fall into the time jumping, I would think.
It would. And there's really no such thing as a failed experiment. Okay. And if anything, the realization, the fact that people got motion sick while doing that goes to show that you all successfully teleported.
Oh yeah, the mission was successful. It was just the means of doing it that was not pleasant. I'm like, oh, this sounds like cool. Like, how do we get everybody backwards? Yeah, we're just gonna spin the date wheel. That sounds like a good idea.
I love it. I love it.
You do have an example of time freezing in your car.
I do. And so time freezing and time jumping, I unintentionally do. So at least on the mundane self level, I unintentionally do. So that, oh gosh, quite a few years ago, when I was out in Colorado, when I lived in Colorado, I was driving north on Interstate 25 from Colorado Springs to Denver. My mom was in the passenger seat. My son at the time was a baby, and he was in the back seat in his rear-facing car seat. I was in the right-hand lane. Now, mind you, in the West, the concept of speed is very different than it is in the Midwest. So if you're from the Midwest and the idea of going 90 or 100 miles an hour is a shocker, I'm sorry. It's actually a common thing in the West, and it's pretty much how you get from point A to point B, because nobody wants to sit in their car. And so that's the mentality out there. And I'm of that mentality too. So I was traveling probably about 85, 90. And I was allowing, of course, everybody to pass me in the fast lane next to me. Well, I was just trucking at the speed that everybody in the right lane was going. When all of a sudden I see a truck, it was going south from Denver to Colorado Springs, so in the opposite lanes. And it slammed into a car, went into the median, crossed over to our northbound side, smashed into one of the cars in the fast lane. And mind you, this is all happening within seconds. Not minutes, seconds. And I see it all of a sudden, both my hands are gripped on the steering wheel. It was as if the steering wheel kind of like got almost a little bit bigger for me. And my vision felt way more panoramic, and time slowed to a very slow speed for me, while time was still happening as quickly as it was. And I was dodging pieces of cars, debris, other cars that were, because the car that got hit on my side of the interstate wasn't but a few cars in front of me. And by all intents and purposes, I would have been smashed up with the rest of the cars there, just like several of the cars behind me. So just trying to paint that picture for you. And here I am in this slow motion, dodging very slowly. I could actually see my steering wheel slowly moving and the piece flying over my Jeep. And then I would slowly bring the steering wheel back, and I would lean the car more towards the right, towards the shoulder, as I was dodging more cars that were crashing in front of me, until I finally got far enough on the grass off the shoulder, away from everybody, to pull back up onto the shoulder ahead of the crash. You ever see in those videos or movies where, when you slow down the time of a video, and it's like, right? Because even the sound slows down.
I'm picturing it.
Exactly what it was like for me. I mean, even watching the debris come at my car, it was coming at my car in slow motion, enough to where I was able to fully dodge it, steer clear of it, and keep steering clear of everything that was flying at me.
I'm picturing it like in the movie The Matrix when Neo does that bend scene, like when he's dodging bullets.
Yes, it was exactly like that. I have no idea, none, on how to consciously do that. And it's not the only time that's happened to me. It's happened to me quite a few times, actually, but I have no idea. This is literally a higher power or higher self aspect of me. Because I don't know how I did it, and I don't know how I do it. One example of time jumping is, so I was in the kitchen, and I've oftentimes been told when I'm working, "Holy crap, Gina, you get things done so fast. How do you get things done so fast, Gia? How do you do it?" And so my son was unloading the dishwasher, and I was making breakfast. And I needed to go throw something in the trash. And so I decided to go around the kitchen island so that I wouldn't, interrupt him unloading the dishwasher. And one moment, my son was looking at me while he was putting away a bowl or plate or whatever. And the next moment, I was over by the trash, and he turned around, freaked out, and was like, "How did you get over there so fast? You were just right here, Mom." Well, I can't explain it.
I know examples of spells and stuff out there where people will use it to get somewhere on time. Like if you're like leaving your house and you should have left 5 minutes ago and you are like desperate in need of being on time, that there's workings that you can do and somehow you're manipulating time and you get there on time. I've seen examples of that. That is really cool.
I've done it, but it's backfired on me.
Well, then that's just the universe telling you weren't meant to be there on time. It might have not backfired. It might have kept you safe. So before we end this episode, I just want to let our listeners know that we are now on the Wisdom app, and that is where you can ask questions. You can put ideas for guests, ideas for topics, and you can get audio answers back on any questions that are pertaining to any of our episodes. And if you go to our Facebook page and you follow us, you can get invited then to our Facebook group. And the Facebook group is now where I'm going to be putting all the content, podcast extras. So this extra is going to be exercises that you can do to develop telepathy, and to develop teleportation, and to develop telekinesis. And so there'll be 3-4 examples or more on each of them on practices that you can do at home to develop or strengthen these skills. And so make sure that you like and follow our Facebook page, and then I can send you a group invite to get the podcast extras.
Well, just one quick thing, since this is being recorded during Mercury retrograde, and it's been a really rough one. Stay safe out there, everybody. It's been a hellish one.
All right, so we would like to thank our listeners for joining us again on this cast. Please like, share, and follow so we can get out to as many like-minded listeners as we can. This is important to us because then we can get our analytics to follow so that we can see what's being liked and what isn't, and we can continue to grow and be better for our listeners.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Blessed be.
Have a good day.